Samsung has phones across multiple different price points, many seeking to offer a great experience, but at a lower price than its flagship Galaxy S offering. Among them, there's the Galaxy S23 FE, the lower spec fan edition of the Galaxy S23, and there's the Galaxy A54. They're different devices at different prices, but which is the best buy? Should you spend the extra $150 to $200 on the S23 FE or save and get the A series model? I'm Cam Bunsen from Pocket-Lint, and in this video I'm going to tell you. There are so many ways these two phones are similar, especially when it comes to design. Stick them side by side and you'd be hard pushed to tell them apart by looks alone. For the sake of this video, the Galaxy A54 is the black model, the S23 FE is the mint green with the silver frame. I won't spend too much time on the design because they're so very similar it's not something I think makes a big difference. They're virtually identical in terms of dimensions whether you're looking at height, width, thickness or even weight. And both even have Gorilla Glass 5 on the front and the back. The only real thing that makes a difference to the way these two phones feel and the build is the material of the frame. The S23 FE has an aluminium frame where the A54 has a plastic one, and that solidity and rigidity from the metal edges is something you can feel as soon as you hold them in your hand. It's just a bit more solid. The S23 FE is slightly more water resistant too, it's IP68 rated, which essentially means it's been tested to withstand depths of 1.5 meters for 30 minutes. Galaxy A54 can do 30 minutes in anything under 1 meter. In real everyday life, however, it doesn't mean that much. Both will handle accidentally being caught in the rain or being dropped in water. But let's talk displays and software for a little bit because the display is the one area the A54 actually outperforms its price tag, I think. It's got a big bright 6.4-inch panel, but stick it next to the similarly spec'd S23 FE display and there's quite a big difference, especially when watching HDR content on Netflix or any other popular streaming service. The biggest area of difference to my eyes is the brightness and the colours. The S23 is by far brighter, but doesn't lose detail in those bright spots, and the colours in scenes are more vivid and lifted too. Being brighter means it's more easily visible when looking at it in bright conditions as well, so if you're outside in daylight, the added contrast and brightness from the S23 FE display will mean an easier viewing experience. By comparison, the A54 colours seem a little crushed, and since we're talking streaming, the S23 seems quicker to ramp up the resolution while streaming too, able to process that download data quicker, so you're not streaming at low quality for ages before it catches up. Now, a lot of this performance is down to the fact that it has a more advanced AMOLED panel. It delivers higher peak brightness than the A54 and better dynamic range in general, so it elevates the experience with the right content. Software is pretty much the same on both. The one key difference is that S23 FE supports DeX, and that gives you the ability to hook up a monitor with a cable and use a computer-like experience on a big screen. Connect a mouse and a keyboard and you have a little mini PC in your pocket. If there's anywhere you'll start to see the bigger differences between the phones, it's in the daily speed and the performance. The processors inside are very different propositions. Samsung's Exynos 1380 in the Galaxy A54 is very much a mid-range chip, and while the phone will feel quick enough most of the time, you'll start seeing its impact when loading demanding games for extended periods or even using the camera, which I'll get into a bit later. What you see inside the S23 FE depends on which region you're in. If you're in the US, you've got a Snapdragon 8 Gen 1, other markets get the Exynos 2200. Both are more powerful than the A54's processor, but the Snapdragon is a little bit more efficient than the Exynos. Still, I've had no issues with my model. It's been great for playing casual games on, and for the most part, all the animations on the 120Hz refresh display have made the phone feel smooth and fast pretty much all the time. Now, swiping through the interface feels smooth on the 120Hz Galaxy A54 as well, but there is a little difference in loading speeds when I start diving into apps, particularly the more demanding ones. And in the thick of fast-paced action and games, the S23 FE seems a little more capable of delivering the full resolution while keeping up with those frame rates. Galaxy A54 tends to drop the resolution a bit to keep that smoothness. One area I struggled with both phones was the fingerprint sensor. The optical sensor in the phones, especially the S23 FE, was a pain to set up, needing multiple times to get it working properly. And then after setup, I've had many missed and failed readings. I had to be super precise with how I scanned my thumb for it to read successfully and unlock my phone. Depending on how you use the phone though, your battery mileage will differ. And with its larger 5000 mAh battery, the dimmer display and less powerful processor, the A54 does seem to last longer between charges. Actual screen time isn't massively different, but if you're a light user you might scrape 2 days from it if you only use it for casual games here and there, alongside some browsing, reading and social media. The S23 FE doesn't quite match that, but it's not really far off. At the end of the day, I'd say roughly there's about 10% difference in battery capacity having taken it off charge first thing in the morning. Nothing worth shouting about, but could mean the difference between getting to the end of that second day and not. Charging speeds are the same on both, with neither going above 25 watts. However, the S23 FE does have wireless charging, the A54 doesn't. Let's move on to the all-important cameras, because when you look at the back, you might assume the two phones have the same systems, and in some basic ways they are. Both have triple camera systems, but the makeup is quite different. The biggest differentiator is the telephoto zoom camera on the S23 FE. It offers 3 times zoom without losing anything in the way of detail. You can still zoom on the A54, but it's a 2 times digital crop on the main sensor. Otherwise, the other two camera specs are very similar. There's a 50 megapixel main and a 12 megapixel ultra-wide on both. The A54's third lens is a macro lens, but still, the actual sensor resolutions and focal lengths on the other two being similar doesn't mean pictures come out looking the same. A lot of the image processing comes down to the phone's processors, and when you have one phone with a mid-range processor and another with an older flagship model, the difference is really clear. Regardless of which lens was taking the image, the A54's images were a lot darker and crushed in the shadows. It struggled to lift light out of those shadowed areas, so the S23 FE images in most conditions just look brighter and more vibrant. So if you find yourself taking photos in dark bars, clubs and indoors anywhere, or even in overcast conditions outside, you'll want the extra sharpness and the brightness from the S23 model. And it can't be overstated how much better the sharpness is on the dedicated zoom camera compared to the 2 times digital zoom. So not only does it give you more focal length, it makes these zoom images much clearer. And at night time, as you'd expect, there's only one winner. The S23 FE's ability to lift more light and give more detail with less noise meant pictures using night mode were clearer and brighter again, just like the daytime shots. And I found if I was shooting a scene with a street light in, the main camera on the A54 created this major starring or lens flare that was impossible to avoid. And as for video, there's one winner. Again, thanks to the more powerful processor. The colors and brightness again show up in the video. Plus you can shoot up to 4K at 60 frames per second and up to 8K at 24 frames per second on the S23 FE. The stabilization doesn't seem all that great on it though, despite the electronic and optically stabilized main camera. Now the results are one thing, but then there's the experience of using the cameras too. The faster processing meant switching cameras was quicker and more responsive on the S23 FE. Tapping the ultra-wide or zoom icon on the A54 meant waiting a second or two, where the FE was pretty much instant. So which should you buy? Purely for the extra camera quality and the processing power, regardless of whether you get a Snapdragon or Exynos model, the S23 FE is the much better all-round phone. It has the much better camera performance and is built into more premium materials. It's that bit snappier in terms of speed and fluidity in the interface, and has the added convenience of wireless charging, plus it has a better display. If your budget or what you want to spend on a phone doesn't go above $500, the A54 is a decent enough phone. You're still getting a big screen phone that's water and dust resistant with software support for a good amount of time. For $400, it's good, but if you can stretch to $600, then the S23 FE is definitely worth the extra cash. I've been Cam. What do you think of these two phones? Which are you buying, or are you avoiding them altogether and getting a Pixel? Let me know in the comments, or you can get me on Threads. I'm at Cam Bunton. If you did like this video, please do leave a thumbs up, subscribe, and tap the notification bell. I'll see you again in the next one. Bye for now.